Ah, Halloween! The time when ghosts, goblins, and of course demons walk the earth. And I know exactly where I want to go tonight. It is time to bring the torments of musical hell to the vilest and most depraved of mortals.
Jesus would not approve of this many afros.
Hello, Jess.
Query, is that you? You sound different. Are you like Samantha from Her? Are we gonna have virtual sexy times?
Ew, no!
Aww.
It's me, Diva. Happy Halloween!
Oh, well, happy Halloween. Wait, Diva, what are you doing here?
As if you didn't know. You thought you could get away with it, didn't you? Fool, you should have known that nowhere is safe from the fury and vengeance of a warrior of hell!
Is this because I broke up Adina Menzel and Tay Diggs? Me and Tay Diggs are meant to be together!
Oh, come on, Jess. Saying Love Never Dies is a better musical than Phantom? You honestly didn't think I'd let that slide.
What? It's my opinion. You cannot punish me because we have different opinions on a show. Can you?
No, I suppose if I were going to be fair, I would say that you were entitled to make your own judgments, and that your opinion, regardless of how much I disagree with it, is every bit as valid as anyone else's.
Thank you.
But I'm not going to be fair, am I?
No? Fine. What's it gonna be? Lake of Fire? Pitchfork up the ass? Or worse, an Adam Sandler movie?
Oh, no. I have a much more exquisite torture in mind. You will be forced to watch a vampire musical!
No, not Frank Wildhorn.
Far worse. This musical stars one of the leads from High School Musical!
No! Although they do alright in Europe and Asia, Broadway musicals about vampires tend to...
Suck?
I was trying to avoid the pun, thanks.
Best to get it out of the way early. Even Jim Steinman's Temps de Vampire, which has a rather respectable cult following worldwide, completely tanked when it got to New York. Although that had a lot to do with the ill-advised attempt to rework the whole thing as a campy comedy. Michael Crawford, how could you? But then again, more serious treatments of the subject, like Wildhorn's Dracula and Elton John's Lestat, didn't fare much better. So why are vampire musicals such a hard sell?
I just don't think there's anything new that a vampire can bring to the table of musical theater that hasn't been done in other musicals. Like, let's take a look at vampire tropes. Magical stalker, Shazam, there's a phantom. Likes to kill people bloodily, boom, throat-slitting barber. Likes to eat their prey, shoo-wham, Lion King. We don't need no stinking vampire musical. Aside from the word vampire being in the title, Broadway would be seeing absolutely nothing new if they had a new vampire musical.
How intellectual. But I also think it has something to do with the fact that horror in general is a hard genre to musicalize. It can be done right, obviously. Sweeney Todd is about as right as a musical can get. But put together the sensationalism of violence and terror with the sensationalism of singing and dancing, and it becomes a lot to balance without toppling into absurdity. But vampires are a perennially popular topic, so people keep trying. Which brings us to I Kissed a Vampire. Written and directed by Chris Nolan, sorry, not that Chris Nolan, and featuring music by Frankie Blue, I Kissed a Vampire stars Lucas Grabeel, best known as the not-so-ambiguously gay Ryan Evans in the High School Musical series, and Drew Seeley, who did some voice doubling for Zac Efron in the same. It was originally a 3-part web series created in 2009, which was apparently popular enough on iTunes with the tween demographic to justify expanding it into a feature-length film. It received a very limited theatrical run in 2012 before fading away into the obscurity of weird Netflix B-movies.
So this is basically Twilight meets Dr. Horrible sing-along blog?
Well, pretty much, only instead of Neil Patrick Harris and Nathan Fillion, it has a couple of Disney Channel alumni. And instead of Joss Whedon, there's a guy whose main claim to fame is writing music for a Pamela Anderson series.
This is gonna hurt, isn't it?
That's the idea.
Alright, let's get this over with.
First off, can we point out how much this title sounds like a bad Katy Perry parody? I kissed a vampire and I liked it. The taste of his typo blood breath.
Our protagonist is Dylan, who in the opening scene is having weird dreams about a singing vampire in a top hat and guy liner, who is trying way too hard to be spooky. You want temptation.
Auto-tune is one of the lesser-known vampire abilities. Dylan explains his nightmares to his parapsychologist, Dr. Lori Light. Believe me, compared to the other names in this movie, that's subtle, who wears a neck brace for protection while Dylan spills his tale of woe to her.
Anyway, one day, she cornered me, and the next morning I woke up with this heinous hickey and an eternal hangover.
That was fast. How far into the movie are we again?
About 3 minutes.
You hate me, don't you?
No, just your rankings of Lloyd Webber shows. But that is sin number 1. This first act is basically a recap of the web series, and it doesn't do it very well. It glosses over how Dylan started turning into a vampire and his first struggles dealing with that, and just kind of throws us in halfway into the ascending action. It's immediately alienating no matter where you approach it from. If you're familiar with the web series, this is old information, and if you're not, it's rushed and doesn't allow you to get involved in the story.
Dylan has a girlfriend named Sarah, and he's starting to panic about their relationship because every time he gets near her, his bloodlust boner starts to kick up and he's afraid of losing control. Because this is a teen vampire movie, and everything has to be a metaphor for adolescence. This leaves Sarah wandering around in an empty carnival, singing to herself. It happens, yo. What is up with this shot composition? It's 65% roller coaster and 35% dancer. Sin number 2, how bad these dance sequences are filmed.
Hey, that's my gimmick!
Well, this is my plane of existence, and if you're gonna make me watch this stupid vampire movie, then I better get on the sin counter.
Oh, alright, I can't really blame you for that. Proceed.
Basic rule of filming dance sequences. You film from head to toe at a straight angle. You do not film one person in the middle of a group dance sequence at medium shot. It ruins the point of the dance. This isn't Chicago. Hell, this isn't even High School Musical. Even that movie had some idea of how to film a dance number. And we don't need a close-up of the singer every 5 seconds to remind us that she's the one singing. I have a longer attention span than, ooh, a bug! Wait a minute, I was too busy complaining about how shitty the filming was that I didn't even hear what the song was about!
You didn't miss anything. Another thing. This is still part of the flashback Dylan is telling to his therapist. So how does he know what Sarah's doing when she's by herself? So, Dylan, what happened after you ran away from your sort of girlfriend in a blind panic?
Well, Sarah stayed behind and sang this terrible pop number, while random strangers danced behind her for a few minutes. I think the song is about relationships or something, but the lyrics were pretty vague.
How do you...
Don't question my vampire powers. They're mine.
So, after Dylan gets done angsting to Dr. Light about his intimacy issues, is using a therapy session for character exposition the most overdone cliche on the planet?
No, that would be that dumb gag where one character is trying to call another on the phone and they hear the other person's voice and they start talking before they realize they're talking.
Hey, Sarah.
But not quite. Leave a message.
An answering machine, of course. Alone in his room, Dylan sings a Woe Is Me song, and I'm sorry, but I just cannot buy Lucas Grabeel trying to act all brooding and tormented about his incipient vampirism. Every time I look at him, all I can see is this.
A long time ago, in a land far away, lived the pineapple princess Tiki.
Singing top hat wearing guy liner vampire shows up in Dylan's room in response to his song, hopefully to tell him to shut the fuck up.
Oh, the name's Trey. Sylvania.
Fucking genius. How did this win an award at the Seattle Film Festival? Is their only source of entertainment the Space Needle?
Could be worse. They could have named him Ivan to suck your blood. Trey's ridiculous name is just a small part of why he's sin number 3. He doesn't have the presence to pull off the whole creature of the night thing, and he's definitely not convincing as Dylan's rival for Sarah's affections. Even allowing for hypnotic vampire powers, I have no idea what she could possibly see in him.
Said the woman who has a thing for the ugly psycho stalker.
Okay, first, demon. Second, most memorable villainous characters have some element of attraction about them, even if it's not necessarily an attraction that the audience is supposed to respond to. Since we're in the world of web-based musicals, let's compare Captain Hammer from Dr. Horrible. The viewer knows he's a jerk right off the bat, but he has enough genuine charm about him that it's understandable why the other characters might not pick up on it. We don't think worse of Penny because she falls for him, we just know that she hasn't been exposed to his jerk-ass qualities like we have. Trey doesn't come off as a seductive bad boy so much as he does a poser who plays up the vampire thing for shock value and to pick up girls, and honestly, I think that's supposed to be the point. But he's so obviously a self-absorbed, womanizing phony, and so bereft of any actual charisma that it's impossible to see why anyone would be attracted to him, against their will or otherwise. Sarah looks like an idiot for falling for his act, even compared to the other characters in this film, which is saying something.
Yeah, Trey isn't threatening so much as he is annoying. Not to mention a compilation of cool bad guy cliches, vampire puns, and pointless musical numbers. In fact, the pointless songs are sin number 4. Stephen Sondheim has said that every song must tell a story, and put a character in a different place than they were previously. I Kissed a Vampire sneers at Sondheim. The songs do not come out of the story. They obviously wrote a bunch of songs and form-fitted the story to work around them. And they didn't do a very good job of it. Yeah, I know all your theater buffs are gonna get up my ass about the very fact that every musical before Rodgers and Hammerstein involved getting a bunch of songs together and trying to fit a story around it. But something tells me that when the creatives behind this monstrosity did this, it was not out of an attempt to replicate the classic form of musical comedies, it was to be lazy.
At least in the early musicals, the music was actually good. Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, the Gershwins. This stuff... Yeah, it doesn't justify the indulgence.
Trey takes an interest in Sarah after he sees her picture splashed all over Dylan's computer. Not weird or stalkerish at all. Take note, ladies, if your friend has you set as his laptop background, chances are he's unleashed unborn children all over that picture.
Please tell me you are not speaking from experience.
I am offended. I only unleash born children all over pictures. Unborn children don't have a choice in the matter.
Anyway, so when Sarah comes over, Trey puts the vampire whammy on her and gets both her and Dylan to go along to a vampire ball, which isn't so much a dark and spookily exotic revel as it is a friendly get-together for people with bad teeth. Seriously, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a half-deflated blood pit off in a corner somewhere.
While there, Dylan is held back by Trey's vampire groupies while Trey tries to seduce Sarah with his supposedly sexy vampire moves.
Just let yourself go, feel the beating of your heart. I can't say no, because you're falling hard.
You know, that's something that's always bothered me.
What?
Vampires are dead, right?
Technically undead, but yes.
Yeah, meaning their blood doesn't pump through their bodies.
That is a prerequisite for death.
So, how do vampires get, you know, happy, elongated, boing?
Do all conversations with you end up coming back to dicks?
Not all of them, Dick! I gotta stop doing that.
Let's just get back to the movie, shall we?
So Dylan manages to get away from this vampire groupies and get Sarah out of there, but not before Trey gets a little nom nom in. Now Sarah's exhibiting vampire warning signs, like having a taste for extra rare burgers and gaudy silver jewelry.
Dylan comes clean with her about the whole vampire thing, and they decide to look for a cure together. Luckily, there happens to be an expert on the subject in the area, and given the total lack of imagination in the movie so far, you can probably guess what his last name is going to be.
Excuse me, Dr. Dan Helsing?
Oh, you must be the salespeople from the Deadly Centipede Farm.
Hey, still more dignified than the Coppola movie. Hey, and he's played by Coppola too. What are the odds?
More dignified or not, he's still sin number 5. First, Dan Helsing? That's an even lazier pun than Transylvania. Next, the character isn't so much of a character as he is a summary of every eccentric, socially inept science nerd trope in the book, played in a very disturbing way. This guy creeps me out more than the actual villain of the movie does.
Sanguivorious eating habits. You wanna suck someone's jugular.
Yes, it's horrible. Can you help us?
She thinks it's bad now. Wait until season 6 when Hep V sinks in. True blood jokes. I have a different issue with this scene. See, this is the part of the movie where we should be getting to the rules.
The rules!
The rules?
You know, the part in every vampire story where they explain how this vampire thing works in this particular setting. Sin number 6 is, the rules are never explained. They spent all this time on Dylan whining to his therapist and fighting with Sarah and other stuff, but they never bothered to go into the rules of this stupid vampire world. How commonplace are vampires? Do they have to stay hidden, or is their existence public knowledge? How would your family react? Is Count Chocula considered to be an embarrassing racial stereotype like Song of the South? This movie never goes into any of that.
Oh, come on, there has to be something in here about how all this is supposed to work.
You see, the secret to the cure is in the vampire's DNA.
Well, there you go, that explains everything.
No, it doesn't. What does DNA have to do with a vampire bite? Is it a mutation thing like Spider-Man? If so, how does that explain their supernatural abilities like telepathy and mind control?
Oh, it's all some sort of wibbly-wobbly, genie-weenie thing.
But how?
DNA explains everything!
Also, why can they go out in the sunlight?
There's also some business about how fast you turn into a vampire depending on the power of the vampire that bit you. Which is good news for Dylan, since he was nibbled on by a day player and might never actually transform all the way. But it's bad news for Sarah, who was bit by the main antagonist and is falling under his sway so rapidly that they're starting to have random telepathic duets in the middle of unrelated scenes.
And since they're committed to the whole DNA thing, as ridiculous as it is, they need some of Trey's blood in order to finish Dr. Dan's special vampire cure serum and save her from a fate worse than death.
Well, how are we gonna find him?
Didn't I just sit through a whole song about this, or what?
Oh yeah, did I mention they keep trying to be tongue-in-cheek about the musical part of this whole deal, but it never gets beyond the, hey, we're singing and dancing, isn't that weird level, and ends up being really forced and not funny at all? Well, there's that.
This movie keeps finding new ways to piss me off.
So Dylan and Sarah send out a telepathic text to Trey, speak of the angel he appears, and he whisks them away to his lair at Castle Cheap CGI.
So, nice place. Where's the torture chamber? Straight down the hall around the corner to your left.
Okay, I admit it. I found one joke in this entire mess to be kind of funny. I'm not ashamed of it.
You really are evil.
Aw, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. While Trey's groupies go all alpha bitch over Sarah, Dylan gets a seduction attempt from the world's worst Jamaican accent.
You know you want it, boy. Relax. Let the stress and the worries of life go.
And of course, Sarah sees the two of them together, with the girl's lipstick all over Dylan's face. And everyone say it with me now, she gets the wrong idea.
Yeah, well, don't you see that Trey is just trying to pull us apart?
Well, guess what? It's working.
Oh, Sarah, come on!
Ugh, slap me.
What?
Slap me. Because they're pulling the single laziest plot development in the lazy plot development book just so they can drive a wedge between the characters without any regard for who they are or how they got to this point, and it's insulting and cheap and boring, and I really need to facepalm over the stupidity of the whole thing right now, but I do not have claws in this form. So do me a favor and slap me, please.
Oh, okay.
Thank you!
So Sarah poofs off with Trey, leaving Dylan alone with no way to find her, let alone stop her from going full vampire. Things couldn't possibly get worse.
You were saying? Dr. Creepy just happens to have a vial of easy cure vampire antidote, just add blood on him, and Dylan's vampire abilities just happen to develop to the point where he can sense Sarah and teleport the two of them to her at Trey's love nest.
But Trey puts the vampire whammy on Sarah, and not even Dylan's "I know you're still in there" speech can break her out of it.
From now on, you'll be Sarah the Bite. I like the sound of that.
Really? Well, in case you're interested, I don't.
Curses! Foiled again by my weakness for lousy vampire puns!
Using Trey's blood, Dylan and Sarah take the antidote, and everything seems all hunky-dory. Oh yeah, teleporting vampires. They should probably do something about that.
You know, Helsing, I never did like science until we dissected frogs.
Women are finally touching me. I can die happy now. Oh, and apparently the antidote doesn't work because Dylan starts vamping out and getting all up in Trey's business, and...
I don't think so.
I want to do this one.
No, it's my turn.
But it's my house.
Hey, who's the demon here?
Okay, stop. We're forgetting who the real enemy is.
Right, the movie. Fine, we'll do it together on 3. 1, 2, 3.
What the fuck is up with this ending? Hardly anything in the entire third act makes any sense. Like, how are magical force fields and teleporting into CGI landscapes suddenly a vampire power now?
Since Trey and his groupies have both telepathy and teleportation, why did it take them so long to catch up with the heroes?
If Dylan's transformation is less accelerated than Sarah's, why isn't she getting the cool random vampire powers instead of him?
If your transformation into a vampire is affected by the DNA of the vampire that bit you, wouldn't Dylan need the DNA of the vampire that bit him for an antidote instead of Trey's? Why does it even need to be blood? Wouldn't it be easier to swab a vampire's drinking glass or steal their toothbrush?
Why do Trey and his groupies just suddenly give up? One minute they're ready to rip these fuckers apart, but after Dylan gets all Deus Ex Machina, they're just like, meh, whatever.
Would Sarah have been okay with the whole groupie thing if Trey had just let her choose her own vampire handle?
Why does Sarah rejecting Trey automatically mean that Dylan gets her? Cause honestly, he's kind of a dipshit too.
Who would want to turn Dr. Dan into a vampire? An eternity of this guy is a hell even I wouldn't wish on anybody.
And finally, nothing was resolved at the end of the movie. They haven't taken care of the villain, they don't know if Sarah and Dylan are humans, vampires, or something in between, and nobody has learned anything. There's no arc, no character development, nothing but a big group dance number over the credits that makes no sense. This is why we review stuff like Parade, because if this movie ended with a lynching, then boy, I would be speaking praises. I hated this movie. I really, really, really hated this movie.
Yeah, that happens a lot with my case subjects, but would you care to elaborate on that?
Not really. But I will anyways. I Kissed a Vampire is a lazy, underdeveloped piece of garbage, and that is coming from someone who openly enjoys Bat Boy the Musical. I feel like it was indecisive in tone, whether we should take the stakes seriously or see this as a farce. Not many people care for High School Musical or Twilight. But in all honesty, this hodgepodge of the two movies has turned out a weaker product, and that is saying a lot.
I Kissed a Vampire is an example of what some people call a why musical. You watch it and think, why did anyone think this needed to be a musical in the first place? You could remove all the song and dance sequences from the film and nothing of value would be lost. Of course, you'd still be stuck with the kind of half-assed paint-by-numbers movie that fills up spare broadcast space on Disney or ABC Family, but at least it wouldn't be interrupted by forgettable songs. Maybe someday someone will make a great vampire musical. I'd like to see Joss Whedon try myself. But this isn't it, and there's only one punishment suitable for the makers of such blatant fang-pandering.
Bad Twilight fanfiction?
Bad Twilight fanfiction.
Right, now that's over with. Please tell me I suffered enough.
No. But I figure there's still 2 months of suspense to go through on the Into the Woods movie, and that's going to be torment enough.
Don't remind me. Hey, you want to watch the American Playhouse recording?
Ah, now you're talking my language.
Greens, greens, and nothing but greens. Parsley, pepper.
Oh, trick-or-treaters.
I'll get it. Nobody interrupts Bernadette.
Damn straight.
Quit it.
Sorry.
Into the woods, into the woods, into the woods, and out of the woods, and home before dark.
So much better than a vampire movie.